Welcome to a code example video entitled Creating a Derived Table. Now let's just jump in here and type some code. Now notice a couple of things. I've opened the SQL Server Management Studio, clicked on New Query, and it gave me this window right here. And then I made sure in my drop-down box right up here on the toolbar that I chose the AdventureWorks 2012 database to execute my queries against. Now let's look at a very simple example of a derived table. I'm going to do a select everything from, select asterisk, all columns from, and normally I would put, right, a table name here, right, person.person, right, the schema and the table name. But what I'm going to do here is, instead of putting a table, I'm going to put a query. I'm going to say select last name, first name from person.person. And then I'm going to close that and say as D person. That scrolls over just a little bit. I can take care of that. And notice what we've got. We're saying select all the columns from, and then we put this right here. That is our derived table. Our derived table will be named D person. Notice, get it, derived person. And we're going to load the last name and the first name from the person.person table into our D person derived table. Then we're going to say select from that table, and now we're back to our regular query where last name is like, and we'll do an I and put a wildcard in if you saw where we worked on like a little earlier. And so let's highlight just that query and execute it, and you can see there's our result set. Notice the last names are all start with I. Now let's do one a little bit different. This time I'm going to change it up just a bit. I'm going to select the last name and the first name from, and I'm going to do this just a little bit different. I'm actually going to kind of switch that. I'm going to select all the columns from person.person where last name is like I%, and I'm going to call this one as iNames because we're getting just the I's. And now we're going to get from that result set, our table here, our derived table iNames is going to be a listing of all the columns from person.person where the last name starts with an I and has anything after that. And we're going to call that derived table iNames. And then we're going to select from that table the last name and the first name where the last name starts with IN and then has anything else. So if I execute that, you'll notice that I only got the INs out of that. But this is an example of where a derived table, you can inadvertently create a performance problem for you. And I'll show you why. I'm just going to highlight the query that's creating our derived table. And I want you to notice what I've done here. This thing is pulling all of these columns of data when really all we need is the last name and the first name. And then we're running a condition where the last name is, like this particular argument right here. This is why you have to be careful with these things. You can cause your SQL Server to work really hard to really do something that's kind of silly and simplistic that you could have written very easily some other way. All right, so let's make all that go away. And what I'm going to do now is just copy and paste one in because I'd rather have more time to talk about it than to spend time typing on it. And so let's just put it in here and talk about it now. This time I'm going to do a join statement, and keep in mind all of these code examples are out there in your working files folder. You'll just see derived table examples or something like that. And I'm going to make this go away so that we can see most of this. Okay, actually I am going to do this way so we can see it a little bit better. Now let's take a look at our structure here. I'm going to select the first name and the last name, and I'm concatenating all that together here, right? And then I'm going to give it an alias name of salesperson for the column. Then I'm going to get subtotal, freight, and total due from another table, SOH. And notice this first one, first name and last name, are coming from the person.person table that I've aliased as P. So you see the P's here and here, right? Then I'm going to join it to, notice, a derived table, SOH. This right here is what creates that select statement. Now, if I execute that select statement, you can see that it's doing some pretty neat stuff from us. It's getting the salesperson ID, subtotal, freight, and total due from that sales order header table, and that's what it looks like. So I'm going to make that go away. And we're naming that SOH. And notice I've got a little comment here. This line creates the SOH derived table. And actually, if you want to see that the way I meant for you to see it, it would be like this. This line, this one line right here, all the way across, creates the derived table. Then we're going to join on where the person.person business entity ID is equal to the SOH, or the sales order header, which is the derived table salesperson ID. As far as SQL is concerned, it's looking at two totally separate tables here. It's just that the second table is derived. It's created on the fly. We execute that, and there is our information. Pretty neat stuff. Take a look at this when it's out there in the example. Play with it. Make sure it makes sense to you. And notice we're even doing an order by here based on our derived table column. A lot of power here. You just have to be kind of careful with it. But that is what a derived table looks and feels like.